the moral side and the immoral side. You can say it's on the immoral side, so it's on the list of don't do those.
Yeah, so there's no distinction between moral facts and descriptive facts.
No, I literally. Well, yeah, I agree with that. I told you, moral facts are just ises. There are no oughts. I've already said that. I've already said.
That's like if I said what it means to be God is to be a soda can, right? I mean,
no,
okay,
no, that's your dumbass presupposition that no one agrees with.
I'm pretty sure other people don't agree.
Hey Tom,
I agree with John.
Okay, no one who matters. Only dumbasses agree with you. Okay, problem solved.
Hey Tom, you gotta do a little better. You're live,
I
buddy.
can just say only dumb people agree with you.
Yeah, because you're just wasting my time. You're not bringing up any criticism. You're saying I don't agree with that, even though stop talking. Your only argument is that you don't agree with that usage of the term. I don't care. You're an idiot. So lots of philosophers do think this is perfectly fine. So your personal opinion just doesn't matter.
So anyways, let's take a person who comes up to you. Well, guys, since he doesn't want to engage anymore, if a person came in here, let's say they're an atheist, just like Tom, they're a naturalist, and they said,
okay, next topic. Stop talking, kid. You're done. You're done. You're wasting time. Next topic. You're done. You're wasting time.
Yeah,
next
you don't
topic.
control the room, and I'm talking. So
Yeah. I don't think Tom. He's obviously know as much as John.
Hold on, can we just move on? We're getting into
No, because he's talking about me indirectly. So no, if he's going to talk about me indirectly, I'm just going to stop him.
I'm talking about the view.
Yeah, so you're talking about me indirectly, so I'm just going to stop you. You're done.
So either way, you're not allowed to just stop me. Right?
Yeah,
If you're talking about me and misrepresenting my position, yes, I am. That's kind of how it works. Yes, you are. That's literally what you're doing.
That don't punch babies is a descriptive.
Okay, you're done. I'm just going to mute you and just talk over you now. So I'm tired of you.
Taco, is he gonna get
Anybody else?
So for Tom, hey John, for Tom it's gonna be a
All right, hold on. We're gonna go one at a time. No one's muting anybody. You talk over someone, you're gonna get a 15-minute mute. Mark my words. One at a time.
I don't know why I was muted.
No, go ahead.
To get back on the topic. For sure. If someone came up to Tom and said, "Well, Tom, I don't believe there are moral facts," and what most people mean by moral facts is, you should not do this.
Dumbass. Bye-bye.
Set part of the game going in. You talk about your lane prio, what your level 1 pathing is, and focusing, right? And I think GDS has done a good job of that. The next step is more diverse because you have a lot of branches. You have a lot of different decisions you can make based on what team comp you have and how you play. So I think next is figuring out some sort of system where they can.
What rules do you have?
Responsibilities to players early on to just be like, hey, this is a key part. Let's just.
Rules do I have for what?
Just in general. You're a feminist weeb. Are those jokes?
What does this have to do with religion?
Chess can be religious, I guess.
No, not really.
Do you guys have any arguments about religion?
That's where you're wrong.
Yeah, Tom, I have an argument for you. So in order for you to sort of hold the position you do, the atheist position, you're actually going to be appealing to the ultimate presupposition, which is the triune Christian God.
How so?
Because that's going to ground intelligibility and rationality.
Well, that's where you're wrong. Zeus is the one true God, and it's not your God.
So we can ground intelligibility.
Here's the thing. Here's what people don't get about
all the history books are wrong, though.
Guys, Tom is live right now.
Revelation. All the history books are wrong.
T-Jump, I got a serious question. Can you unban me in T-Jump? Because that Beowulf is the one who banned me.
You have to pay for a subscription on Patreon or ask him to do it?
I'll pay for the subscription.
Go for it. Like on Patreon, if you pay for a subscription and you link your account, it does that automatically. I don't have any control over it.
That's
okay. I'll do it.
That's how you figure out the truth.
You guys want to look up T-Jump on YouTube? He's live right now. We're famous.
Me. That's me.
Yeah, T-Jump.
Who is T-Jump?
Just look him up.
Oh, I think I've heard of him. Didn't he debate one of the people or something?
Yes, that happened. One of the people.
One of the people. One of the many.
So who was it who brought up the precept thing?
Oh yeah. So what you're doing, T-Jump, is spiral reasoning. You're starting from one presupposition, and you're going to be appealing to the ultimate presupposition, because that's going to be the foundation for intelligibility and rationality.
So you don't need that. You don't need to appeal to the ultimate foundation of reality to get rationality or intelligibility.
Well, you do, because reasoning can't take place in a vacuum. A person's reasoning is colored by their presuppositions.
That's
No,
true.
no. So you can reason without any reference to the fundamental nature of reality. It's not a vacuum.
Right, but I'm saying there's no neutral realm where reason alone exists.
That's fine. That's fine. So you can do reasoning like in a small subset of reality without any reference to the fundamental nature of reality.
Yeah, but I'm saying because you deny the true God, you're beginning with the wrong presuppositions. Because without
Wait a minute. Hold on. There's an issue here, right? Which is that on one. Shut up. I'm talking. Look, you said. So I agree with you when you said that reasoning can't happen in a vacuum, right? In order to reason, presumably you need things like inference rules, right? You need things like some kind of axioms from which you could derive certain conclusions, you know, so on and so forth. Okay, fine, that's fair, right? This is known as a hinge, right? This is what's known as a hinge, right? In philosophy, right? But the issue is that now you're saying, well, your hinges, the things upon which you upon which your epistemology depends in order to make sense of the world, right? That those things are wrong. Here's the issue. In order to make that claim, you have to have your own hinges that you appeal to. And if they're different than my hinges, then I don't really see how we can actually have a dialectic, right? The point is that if I have my hinges and you have your hinges, how are you going to convince me to adopt your hinges without convincing me to
because
adopt your hinges in the first place, right?
The unbeliever's worldview is going to fail to provide the preconditions of intelligibility, because the correct worldview must provide no inconsistency, and the biblical worldview passes this by not being arbitrary.
But you're deriving that. But in order to make that claim, you're appealing to a certain set of hinges.
Wait, that's not a problem.
If your hinge includes the belief in Christianity, then I don't see how you're not just begging the question.
Wait, hold up. So that's perfectly fine. You can say that your hinges, some are more logical than another, and you can convince someone to change their hinges. So that's fine, and that's the argument he's making. But I would say that what are the preconditions of intelligibility? You said one is like absolute certainty or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
one sec. You don't need absolute certainty for the preconditions for intelligibility. That's not one of the preconditions. So I don't know.
No inconsistency. The worldview has to provide no inconsistency, and the biblical worldview can
but why?
Wait.
Why is inconsistency bad?
Well, no. So that's a good question, but what's more importantly, why can't you have inconsistency and still have knowledge? Like you can still have knowledge with inconsistency. It's just you can't. Like if everything was inconsistent,
because we can only have knowledge of the way things appear to us, not of the things in themselves.
That has nothing to do with inconsistency, so it's not addressing the question. You said
you're confusing epistemology and ontology, Tom.
Okay, that's
actually what you're doing. That's actually what you're doing. Because the point is that T-Jump is saying, what T-Jump is saying is very simple. He's saying, okay, let's just grant that I can be inconsistent in my reasoning, that there's a genuine possibility that I might be inconsistent. So what, right?
Well, it's more specific. So I'm saying like you can be inconsistent in some things. So like say you're inconsistent about potatoes or something, but you can still be consistent about other things. So if you have some inconsistency in your logic, you could still be perfectly consistent in many other things and still have knowledge. And so having inconsistency in your worldview isn't actually a problem.
Yes, but it's the only objective judgment that you can make about something.
Yeah, if you think that T-Jump or I are being inconsistent, then just derive the contradiction. Go ahead, derive the contradiction.
Yeah, because if naturalism were true, there could be no reasoning to support naturalism.
How does that follow?
Yeah, because we would just be humans preconditioned to the laws of nature, and so we wouldn't have the cognitive ability to reason.
Why not? Because that's just begging the question, right?
No. What I'm saying is that the evolutionists would have no basis for induction. You're assuming it, but you have no basis for it in principle. Because every step you take.
One sec. You changed topic again. So he asked, why is it that if the naturalist world is true, we wouldn't have the preconditions for intelligibility? Stick with that one. Why, if naturalism is true, why couldn't we have intelligibility?
Because it seems as though like any other framework is going to be self-defeating.
Oh, it seems? Well, okay, so now you're just talking about appearances. Okay.
Wait, hold on. When people say it seems, it's just a preamble to the argument. So don't get stuck on the it seems part.
Okay.
So what was the argument? It seems what?
So you're making an absolute claim that there are no absolutes. It doesn't make any sense. It's self-refuting.
So I never said that. I never said that. Never said that. How did you get to that part?
An absolute claim that there are no absolutes. Tom.
How did you get that? Where did you get that statement from? Like, I never said that. Where did you get that statement from? So if naturalism is true, we can't have intelligibility because why?
Well, because God is the necessary precondition for logic and intelligibility.
Now that's just begging the question.
And people depend upon logic.
Yeah, you're just making the question. We're asking you. You said that naturalism is inconsistent with us having intelligibility. We're asking you, what is the argument for that, right? What's the
because you're denying the true God, so you're beginning with the wrong presuppositions. Because without the Christian God,
how do you know what are the preconditions of intelligibility? So what are they exactly?
They're just brute necessities, and God would also be
What are they? What are the brute necessities that are the preconditions of intelligibility? What are they?
They would just be uniform, like universal categorical norms.
Yes, but which ones? What are they? What are the preconditions?
That's what I'm saying. They would be mind-independent requirements of reason, and God would have the causal force necessary.
So I'm asking, like, absolute certainty, some kind of logical coherence. Like, what are they? Don't tell me like what they're similar to. Don't tell me what category they are. I want to know specifically what are the things you need for the preconditions of intelligibility.
We need innate knowledge, which is instilled in us from God.
Well, wait,
Why?
That's not, so a precondition for intelligibility needs to be something about the universe that allows for intelligibility. Innate knowledge doesn't do that. Like,
yeah, so God would be of the eternal realm, and the eternal realm in which God exists in, as being God is the entirety of the eternal realm, is what's necessary for the temporal realm that we exist in.
Okay,
so why is it both? But this is getting off topic. The original question was.
No, this is on topic. So the argument goes like this: you have the wrong preconditions for intelligibility. The right preconditions are God. What are the preconditions? The preconditions are eternal something something. Why does eternal something something have anything to do with the preconditions of intelligibility?
Because the eternal must be necessary for the temporal. The temporal can't cause the temporal.
Right, but what does that have to do with intelligibility?
Well, because we are temporal rational agents, and our our capacity to be rational is going to be through divine revelation, which is intelligibility.
Go back. So my question is why can't we have rationality in a temporal state independent of the eternal? So, for example, let's say there is an eternal, and then a universe pops into existence, and rationality develops in that universe, completely independent of any reference to the eternal. So it doesn't know anything about the eternal, doesn't care about the eternal, still seems to be able to do rationality just fine in its own limited state. Why is that a problem?
It's a problem because there's always going to be some independent requirement of reason that lies within the eternal.
Like what?
The eternal realm. It's going to get down to sets of axioms.
Like what?
So
give me a specific ones.
Yeah, so we can look at geometry, for example, or just set theory in math, and how we can somehow generate infinite sets of axioms given a finite set, or a finite set of inferential rules. And so this actually what was discovered in math and set theory. We're able to generate infinite sets of axioms.
Which has what to do with needing that to be eternal for it to be intelligible? Like, that could all just be in our universe and be intelligible without anything.
Well, we would have eternal brain states. And so if this would demonstrate that we can have infinite brain states or eternal brain states.
No, you don't need eternal brain states. You can have temporal brain states and a temporal universe and still have temporal logic, and it can still work just fine. I'm not seeing the problem here.
No, because the axioms from which the first order temporal logic is built off of are going to be infinite. And so that's going to demonstrate that there is an eternal that's necessary for the eternal itself,
so I would agree with that, and that's the nature of reality. So the nature of reality is logical, and so logic follows from the nature of reality, and that's where we get geometry and all that stuff. So in a naturalistic universe where there is reality and laws of logic describe reality, we can get logic in our universe just fine with no God. So it seems like in a naturalistic universe we can provide the preconditions of intelligibility. Why would that be an issue?
Well, no, because the very capacity for us to be able to perceive objects is how we're going to ground our knowledge, and the capacity is going to necessitate the triune Christian God. That's what I'm saying.
Wait,
So what grounds
how?
knowledge is going to be how things appear to us, not things in themselves.
Well,
We
no,
can never.
no. Remember,
know-
you just said that if you reference logic, it has to reference the way something fundamental in reality. So if we're referencing logic in what we see, we aren't just referencing what we see. We're referencing something fundamental in reality, right?
Yeah, and this would be synthetic a priori knowledge.
A equals A would just be a priori. I don't think it would be synthetic. But the point here is that we can still reference reality just fine with no God. If we just say there is an apple or something, that's referencing logic, which describes the fundamental nature of reality. And you don't need God for that, but you just need reality for that. Any reality will do that.
No, because we are intuitively going to come to realize God based on the intuitive representation that's referring to a single
that's
individual
That's not a
object
precondition of intelligibility. So you said you don't have the correct preconditions for intelligibility. And you said the preconditions were eternality, and I said yes, and we both have that. Naturalism has that, and theism has that, but you haven't given any other.
No, the preconditions for intelligibility are going to be the two foundational structures of our cognitive faculties. And so
What does that mean?
So we're going to have pure intuitions and empirical intuitions. These are going to be the preconditions for intelligibility.
What's a pure intuition?
Well, a pure intuition is just going to be like an a priori representation of space and time themselves.
Okay, but look, the point is, okay, fine, sure, we need intuition. Let's just grant.
Oh, I don't want to grant that. I don't understand what that means. Why do we need?
Why? But okay, it doesn't matter. Like the point is, let's just say he says there's some preconditions X that we need, whatever intuitions, whatever. Okay, fine. How does that entail theism? I don't understand.
Yeah, because so like the basic type of representation of understanding is our concept. So separate from intuitions, the concepts are going to represent like what refers generally to indefinitely many objects. Like for example, the concept of cat on its own could refer to any and all cats, but it's not going to refer to any necessarily refer to any one particular cat.
Okay, all right, let's grant that. Okay.
Yeah, so the concepts refer to their objects only indirectly because they depend on intuitions for reference to particular objects. You see?
Okay, let's just grant that. Yeah, sure. Okay.
So we can have an infinite set. We can have an infinite set of concepts, given these finite rules.
How does that go to God? How does that go to God?
That's what I'm confused.
Well, because it goes to God because we would have infinite brain states, and so we would be emergent of a higher degree of reality.
Wait, what? How does that? Wait a minute. Okay, so you're saying we need these intuitions. Okay, fine. How does that? How does that get you to God?
Well, I'm saying that through these, we're able to have infinite sets of concepts, and so since we're able to have that, then we're also able to have like partial axiom construction sets, and show that we can have infinite sets of axioms
who cares? How does
conclusion,
that?
Conclusion God. What is conclusion God?
Well, because we would then have infinite brain states, and that would allow us
to
transcend the finite.
Pause there.
We would be emergent of a higher degree of reality.
So you're saying that there's infinitely many things the word cat can refer to, and for each of those things there must be a brain state?
Well, no. I'm saying there are infinite amounts of there are infinite things in which the concept of cat can refer to, but not any one in particular. And so, because we're able to generate infinite amounts of concepts, then we're able to also generate infinite brain states, which means that we're able to transcend the finite. We're able to
but hold on. Firstly, that's not true. Just because, in principle, there could be an infinite number of concepts that agents think of, and infinite ways in which those concepts can refer to the world, it doesn't therefore follow that any individual agent is gonna have is gonna have the capacity for having an infinite number of brain states. That doesn't follow, right?
Yes, it does. Because concepts are pure concepts are just going to be a priori representations, and they're going to characterize the most basic logical structure of the mind. And so if we go to the axioms of first order logic, what's necessary for our mind to experience is going to show that we're able to have infinite sets of
yeah,
axioms.
I'm saying, how does it showing that? How is it showing?
I think he means logically
because
possible.
we can have these inferential rules.
I think he means it's logically possible. Therefore,
yeah, you're just saying we can apply inference rules in an infinite number of ways. So what?
Well, no, we have inferential rules in first order logics and things like that, and we can kind of embed them and just keep reapplying them to infinity and generate new sort of compound statements.
But you're just saying that, well, in principle that's possible. It doesn't therefore follow that it's actually possible for any particular person. It's like nomologically possible, right?
No, it's going to be possible for everyone, and that's because they're going to be, well, because we're going to talk about categories, the 12 categories in total, and so this is going to fall into modality possibility.
You're just spewing out a bunch of gibberish.
Let's go back. So you're saying that it's possible for us to imagine an infinite number of things, therefore there must be a mind that is actually doing this?
No, I'm saying that our mind is necessarily affected by the faculty for us to experience and have reason and rationality, and because of this, we're going to be able to generate an infinite amount of brain states based on the foundational like axioms that we're able to generate an infinite amount of sets of, and because we're able to generate infinite amount of sets of axioms just by reapplying these inferential rules over and over, then we're able to demonstrate that we can have infinite amounts of brain states, and so we'd be able to transcend the finite with the infinite amount of brain states, and we would have cognition of ourselves being finite, which would allow us to transcend the finite. And
okay, so you're saying that you're saying that the infinite brain states can't be produced by naturalism because it transcends the finite. Infinite transcends the finite. Is that your argument?
It would transcend the laws of nature as well, because the laws of nature would govern the conditions in your worldview for our cognition, which would be irrational because we'd be forced to hold the beliefs that we do, and that's just incoherent. And if it's incoherent,
that's a different topic. That's a different topic. So hold up, go back. So you're saying that nature can't explain our ability to think of infinitely many things. Is that's your argument?
As well as the fact that nature can't reduce to an infinite set of axioms. It's going to be one sort of monad in the sense that there's going to be one sort of thing governing.
Wait, so nature can explain our ability.
Can you just put your argument in premise by premise?
Oh God, don't even try to. He's not going to be able to do that. That's like asking too much.
Know. I mean, it's just what he's saying is gibberish.
It's not gibberish. I've cornered Tom, and he has
wait. So nature can explain our ability to think of infinitely many possible things. It's just a form of logic, like you said. As you said, it's a thing of logic. Logic describes reality, and so reality, which has the forms of logic, gives us the possibility to think of infinitely many potential abstract things just fine. So that is done in naturalism. You don't need a God for that.
No, in naturalism, you're not able to account for these internal subjective mental states that are going to be demonstrating the infinite brain states.
Remember.
Well, no, it's because these infinite brain states are just our internal subjective mental states, our qualia, which is non-physical.
No, it's definitely physical. So we have physical mental brain states. They follow logic. They can do all logical things, have all logical ideas. So that gives us infinitely many access to infinitely many potential abstract ideas. All of that's explained under naturalism. So it seems like we have explained.
That's not true. Because hypothetically, if you had knowledge of all of the physical facts about the colors, about the color experiences of people, but you've never had the experience of perceiving a color. Like in the Mary's room example, you're locked away in a room. You haven't seen a color, but you have the knowledge of the physical facts of color experiences of other people. When you're released from the room and you perceive color for the first time, you gain a sort of knowledge, which is the knowledge of the particular quale that corresponds to the experience of seeing that color. And so you're gaining something after you actually perceive color for the first time. And this is showing that qualia is non-physical because you had all the information about all of these color experience.
No, it's not. So if we do know all the physical states, we would be able to fully have the knowledge of color exactly as it is experienced by the individual, because the way they experience it is determined by their physical states, and so we could literally map consciousness onto physical states. We will be able to do that. So problem solved. Naturalism can explain that, but that wasn't relevant to anything you said previously. That was a tangent on a different topic. So your previous argument is that you don't have the correct preconditions for intelligibility, and Were you saying that this was one of the preconditions, that explaining qualia was one of the preconditions of intelligibility?
No, explaining how we're able to generate based on the axioms of first order logic an infinite amount of sets.
Right.
How
So,
are we
so
able
that
to
we can
account
do.
for this
That
naturalism?
naturalism can do that just fine. And then you brought up qualia for no reason whatsoever.
No, because this is going to further demonstrate how we're going to have infinite brain states, which are going to be subjective mental phenomena that are non-physical.
So I rebutted your argument. I said naturalism can explain that, the laws of logic.
You didn't let me respond to that. You didn't rebut to anything. You said, well, if we can't... I know what you said. It's the common response to Mary's room, but what I'm saying is that...
No, that's the second argument. So the first argument, can naturalism account for an infinite set of abstract states of possible thought? Yes. Yes, it can, because logic is a result of nature. Logic describes nature, and so our ability to conceptualize things, which is a result of nature, gives us the ability to think of infinitely many potential abstract things in nature. So yes, nature does give us the ability to think of infinitely many abstract sets, just fine.
Yeah, so the problem is nature's not going to be able to account for this, because if the laws of nature are something that our minds are subjected to, then it's going to be the case that we're not going to be coherent in any way, because we're going to be subjected to these laws of nature.
Wait, that doesn't follow. That doesn't follow.
We're going to be forced to believe the things that we believe.
So even if we're forced to believe the things we believe, they can still be coherent. Like if I force a calculator to say 1 + 1 = 2, it's still coherent. So even if we're forced to believe things, that doesn't mean they're false or incoherent. They can still be correct. They can still be logical. They can still be right. So whether or not we're forced to believe things is irrelevant to their correctness or incorrectness.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, because in virtue of the fact that we're forced to believe the things we do, then in a way you have to assume that what's causal for this sort of ability for us to have reason is going to lie in the laws of nature, which is, it just can't be the case, because the foundation for what's going to be reason giving must be propositional or cognitive.
No,
and so
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It can be a description of nature. No, it doesn't. So I just went over this yesterday with a guy. We're talking about the different views of logic. The two major views are like O3 and L4, whatever. Is that L4 is that logic is a language that describes reality. So the truth maker is reality, which means nothing, there's no propositional content there that you need. It just describes reality, and that's perfectly fine. You don't need any kind of abstract proposition anywhere. It's just describing reality. It's just a language.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that well, first of all,
but that would make me right. If you say yeah, that means I'm right.
About truth making as entailment, or truth making as necessitation?
Wouldn't make a difference here.
It would. Well, I can just sort of reject the axioms of truth making, and axiomatic T and stuff like that. I can just...
If you reject the axioms of truth making, then God can't be the truth maker either. So whatever.
What do you mean? I can reject truth making entirely.
So if you reject all truth entirely, then it can't be true that God does anything.
No, it's just that I reject truth making because I'm a coherent.
Okay, you can take whatever truth value you want, or kind of or theory of truth you want, whatever version you apply to God, I can apply to the universe. And so I can say that in whatever way God's nature grounds logic, the universe's nature grounds logic, and so you can have logic perfectly fine as an instantiation of describing a physical state, and you don't need any kind of abstract propositional truth.
Sure, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I don't have to accept your notion of truth making to ground my truth.
I just refused that. So whatever version of truth you use, I'm just going to grant whatever version of truth you use, and I can mirror that and say the truth is grounded in nature in whatever way you like truth. Your correspondence, coherence, whatever, I don't care. It's going to work the same way for naturalism as it does for a God, and so it works equally as well to justify belief in logic and rationality under naturalism.
You're going to be appealing to something outside of naturalism, and let me explain why. Because when you're talking about truth-making as grounding, this is going to be non-causal metaphysical dependence. And so in virtue of us all having reason, there's going to be one type of categorical norm that has the power to give that reason or be reason-giving to all humans.
No, you don't need categorical norms at all.
Naturalism, it's going to be transcendental.
No, you don't need categorical norms at all. It doesn't need to be transcendental of everything. It just needs to be transcendental of whatever is being affected by the laws. So if the fundamental nature of reality is what grounds logic, then it's transcendental of the physical world, and so the physical world is grounded by a transcendental state of nature. So you have all of that.
It would be It would be what's necessary for the laws of nature to be any sort of ontology in the first place.
No, because transcendental doesn't
would,
mean not nature. Transcendental just means a thing above the other things. So if there's a law of nature that is above the other laws, it is a transcendental law.
Right, and what I'm saying is that a transcendental norm in the way we're talking about it right now is just going to be something that in virtue of us all having reason, there's going to be one type of categorical norm that comes before.
No, none of that follows. That's all nonsense. That's all incorrect. So none of that follows.
It does follow, and that's
no, it
because
doesn't.
it's required for us to have this universal morality. It seems like you're painting
well,
this
that's a completely separate topic. You haven't even brought up morality yet. So you'd have to explain how in any way morality relates to a precondition for intelligibility. It's not. You don't need morality as a precondition of intelligibility. So that I've already addressed all of your preconditions of intelligibility you've presented and showed they can be justified under naturalism.
No, you're not addressing
argument.
this right now though, because what I'm saying is that you're not justifying, because what your position is leading to is this sort of regress into
which
an
precondition of intelligibility did I not show could be unexplained under naturalism?
We're talking about what is the norm that's necessary for human beings to have reason.
Which precondition? Again, we're only talking about the preconditions for intelligibility. Which precondition of intelligibility can't be grounded under naturalism? Which did I not address?
Yeah, we're talking about mind-independent requirements of reason.
Not answer the question. You said
yes,
he
I
didn't
did.
justify his position. Which position did he not justify?
Yeah, so he's not justifying how his position is falling into this sort of regress into an unconditional principle.
That's a different topic. That's a different topic. You said the first argument you made. Hold up. The first argument you made was that naturalism can't account for the preconditions of intelligibility. Then you need to present preconditions for intelligibility and see if under naturalism can I account for those. So far, you presented several, like eternality and some other things.
Yeah, and I said what's going to be reason giving can't really be grounded in naturalism. And I keep saying that over and over again. I don't know why you haven't addressed this. You're not letting me
what
explain.
part didn't I address there? So I said yes, it can. Whatever version of truth you use for God, I can use it under naturalism. So yes, I just addressed that.
No, I'm saying what's going to be necessary for us to have reason is going to be something that's reason giving in a sense for all humans, and so that's what's going to be required. And what you're doing is
you don't need reason giving. Wait. Reason giving has nothing to do with the preconditions of intelligibility.
No, it has. Well, we're talking about the preconditions for reason. Well, that's what we're talking about right now, which would be a precondition for intelligibility.
So reason as in like logic, not like you should do X, like actual logic.
Right, yeah, like a mind-independent requirement of reason. And so what I'm demonstrating is that you're inherently accepting the force of instrumental imperatives.
Right, so I agree. I agree that logic is mind-independent. It's a description of reality. Reality is mind-independent.
Not necessarily.
Well,
what I'm saying is that there are
So to the guy who said not necessarily, his argument is that you can't ground this without a God. So if I can show it's logically possible, I win the argument. So it doesn't need to be necessarily the case. It just needs to be possibly the case.
Sure, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that's not necessary.
Well, my argument here isn't to prove naturalism.
Like the grounding for reason is the necessary precondition for reason is going to be propositional. It can't be non-cognitive, and so that's why we're going to have this.
How? Don't just make the assertion. Explain how is it the case, because that doesn't follow. You don't need it to be propositional at all. So why do you think that's the case?
Yeah, because what makes this justified is this sort of regress into an unconditional principle that's found in reason itself. Because if it wasn't found,
none of that follows. It doesn't need to be found in reason itself. Reason can be a descriptor of some other thing just fine. It doesn't need to be in reason itself.
No, because what I'm saying is that we're going to need to universalize this to all people in virtue of something that all people have in common.
Yeah, reality. They all exist in reality, so that's universalized to everyone. They exist in reality, and it's still not propositional content.
It has to be propositional.
No, it doesn't. It can be a description of reality.
No, the propositional nature prohibits the grounds being non-cognitive, and the reason for it is because it's because all of these hypothetical norms are going to have to get grouped into one categorical norm, because otherwise
they don't. That's not how hypothetical norms work.
So retarded.
Because otherwise we would have an infinite regress of hypothetical norms.
Hypothetical norms have nothing to do. Those have nothing to do with the preconditions of intelligibility. You haven't given a precondition for intelligibility.
Look, you're just spewing gibberish. Hypothetical norms are things that you ought to do given some conditions. Usually some things like beliefs or desires. And categorical norms are things that you should do simplicity. So I don't see how.
I'm saying that the reason it doesn't seem that the reason giving force behind these type of norms that situate our instrumental or hypothetical norms can be non-propositional or non-cognitive.
How? You didn't explain how.
What do you mean reason giving force? Can you give me an analysis of what you mean when you say like reason giving force? I don't understand.
I think it means logic, reason, the logical structure of the argument.
Because, like, if we're endorsing certain types of hypothetical norms, then we can create a sort of disjunction between accepting things for dispositional reasons, which doesn't seem to be reason giving in any sense.
You don't accepting when you say acceptings for dispositional reasons. When you say the term acceptings for there is being used equivocally, when you say acceptings for, because it's like true or it's moral or whatever. Because the point is, a disposition isn't going to be a reason. Right?
I know.
Disposition just causes you to act in a certain way. So I'm saying I don't understand. So
I'm saying we're creating a disjunction between accepting things for dispositional reasons.
No, we don't. If
Wait,
we're
let
supposed
him
to
finish.
accept something, we don't create any disjunction.
Let him finish. Let him finish then. So,
no, but why should I let him gibberate for another?
You didn't let me
5
say the
minutes?
other part.
what he said. I thought I understood. I understood the sentence. So he said we are conflating between dispositional, the reasons we accept dispositional reasons, and
what we're going to do as free agents, because as free agents we can create certain types of second order beliefs.
So yeah, that's just free will versus determinism has nothing to do with the preconditions of intelligibility. Why are you bringing this up?
No, what I'm telling it's not free will versus determinism. What I'm saying is I can think about a moral action, Teacher, and then instead of just acting on my immediate causal disposition, I can actually analyze that and create a second order belief and universalize that to its universal content.
Which has nothing to do with the preconditions of intelligibility.
All these other things. It does, because what I'm saying is when we create these sort of second order beliefs, now we're talking about an agent that has certain types of reflective beliefs.
Which is not a precondition of intelligibility.
No, because these reflective beliefs are going to necessitate a precondition, which is going to be an unconditional norm, and that is going to be the precondition for intelligibility.
Wait, that's not a precondition of intelligibility. That's an emergent property of reason. That's not a precondition of intelligibility. Precondition of intelligibility means a thing you need to do rationality at all, not a thing that emerges from rationality.
It's the other way around. So again, it's an unconditional norm that's necessary for our reason and our rationality.
You don't need an unconditional norm for rationality.
Yes, we do, because this is ultimately what's going to ground our instrumental imperatives.
Categorical norms don't ground anything. You don't need categorical norms to ground something.
Yes, they do, because it's going to be the very same thing that introduces reasons into the world and makes it.
No, that's begging the question. That's begging the question. You don't need categorical norms to ground anything. Prove me wrong.
Well, yeah, so what I'm saying is...
I don't care what you're saying. Explain, follow the sentence. The sentence is, you need categorical norms to ground things because why?
Well, because it's either the case that you group all of these hypothetical norms
No.
into a categorical norm.
You don't need to group any hypothetical norms. Hypothetical norms don't even need to exist for rationality. You don't need hypothetical... Stop. You don't need any hypothetical norms for rationality. Rationality can exist without any hypothetical or categorical norms at all. So you don't need those. Those are not preconditions of intelligibility.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that we have to group these hypothetical norms into a categorical norm.
There are zero hypothetical norms. None of them. They don't exist. You don't need them for rationality. They don't exist.
No, then we have to walk all the way back to this then. Yeah, I think that you're inherently going to accept the force of hypothetical norms or instrumental norms.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you don't need them for rationality, they're not a precondition for rationality, right?
You would need them for rationality. Yes.
How? How would you need hypothetical norms for rationality?
Well, because the hypothetical norms are going to instantiate this sort of universal norm.
No, that's begging the question again. Why do you need, for rationality, just the ability to do logic, why do you need hypothetical norms, hypothetical imperatives to do rationality? Those don't follow.
Yeah, because there's going to be something required, which is going to be an unconditional norm. And
no, you haven't shown how any of that is required to do logic, and you don't. So you haven't shown.
Yeah, again, because if it wasn't founded in reason itself, then it would either have to be in our nature or in the world. But if
it's in the world, problem solved.
Yeah, but then if it's in the world, how would it have somehow been? Like, how did it? You have to demonstrate how this is gotten to without using any sort of characteristics or any sort of properties of the subject. and that wouldn't tie it to the subject.
I already did that. So when we exist in reality, and so because the fundamental nature of reality is what we're talking about when we do logic, we now have access to the fundamental nature of reality. Problem solved.
No, because the subject has to have certain types of sensitivity in order to apprehend the values, and then we just have to find out what type of
Yes, we
sensitivity
experience
is the
reality.
correct
We're literally in it. We are in reality, so we have
right,
some
but this
sensitivity.
doesn't seem
Reality.
possible.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
but the problem is what you see as reality is what I'm saying is this internal universal criterion, because this is required.
Right.
For
Yes,
us to
reality
sort of
is the
apprehend
universal
values.
criterion. Yes, reality is the thing we need for logic.
No,
We don't need God.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is that what you see as reality is actually going to be demonstrating this categorical imperative, because this is going